Yeah, we're excited now to offer Garmin as part of our range. There's some pretty cool stuff that they do now, especially integrated with the Victron system. So yeah, we've got a couple of their products here, the Power Switch and the Overlander, so let's jump into them and check it out. Yeah, so we'll jump into the power switch first. So we're going to start integrating this into a few of our power systems now, just because of the extra usability they have over other switch panels. Because they do have all the manual switches on the actual top of it now, and then you can also then have it switched on your phone through the Power Switch app. You can also, if you have like an Overlander screen or another Garmin screen, you can also have it switched on there as well. Just with setting it up onto the actual screen there. And then you can also, if you have a vehicle that's equipped with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which is pretty much every car these days, you can also have it switched on your Apple CarPlay as well. So all you need is just that Power Switch app, and then that'll work on your phone, and then it'll also mirror over to your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. And then if you do have a Garmin display, then you can obviously set it up on that as well, plus also having the manual switches on top of the actual unit. So just gives you the most amount really of switching ability. And then obviously a big challenge these days is a lot of new cars don't come with actually any spots to put switch panels. So then it becomes quite difficult to put manual switches inside the cab. So now you can either put that somewhere on your actual dash if you wanted to, but it is a little bit chunky. Otherwise you can just have it on your phone or on your Apple CarPlay or on your Garmin Switch. So just gives you a bit more usability. It just makes it a bit easier, especially for these new cars where it gets difficult to be able to add all these extra switches in. One thing just to note on it, they do have 30 amps per circuit. So if you did want to use it for say like driving lights or something, it's probably not the most usable because a lot of them are over 30 amps. And then the other challenge you have is trying to get that high beam trigger to actually activate your light bar. So it does have two inputs, C1 and C2, that when you can set up any one of your lights, that if it gets a trigger to either C1 or C2, just the commands, that'll activate one of those lights. The only downside to that is that if you're going to use that for your high beam trigger, for example, once it sees that command, whether you want that light on or off, as soon as it sees that command, it'll just turn that light on. So it's not really the best for spotlights. We can obviously get around it by putting relays and that in, but then it just adds extra cost, extra work to the unit, but it definitely is possible. But I personally think if you've got a car that doesn't really have any switch spots, you're probably better off just not putting a switch in for your light bar, just wire it straight off that high beam trigger. So this probably isn't really the unit for you, especially if they're then going to draw more than 30 amps, then you're going to chuck another relay in, take that extra load. Probably not the best idea, so it's probably better just to stick with the stock standard setup for that. But for all your other switching needs, it's definitely a great option. No longer do you have to worry about fuses. It's all internally done. It'll reset itself, so you don't have to worry about ever replacing fuses. Once you fix the fault, it'll just sort itself out. So that's a nice little feature as well. And then the whole unit can handle 100 amps. So it's pretty rare that you're ever going to have more than 100 amps going through a unit at a time. So it can definitely handle all your loads. 30 amps per circuit, more than enough to pretty much switch everything. So yeah, it's definitely a great option. And the other advantage to them is you can have up to 4-in-1 system. So that gives you so many, with having 6 on per one. 6 on 4 is what, 24? So it gives you up to 24 switching. That's, I mean, you're never going to have more than 24 switches in any vehicle, so you're never going to run out of switch capability. The other nice feature about it is you can then group switches together. So this is all your normal switches here, and you can set it up either on the tablet or your phone. It's obviously just a bit easier to show it on the actual Garmin Overlander here because it's a bit bigger. But you've got your 6 different switches here. I've just set up 2 for now just to show, so that's just normal on off for both of them. And then if you're like, okay, I want all my lights to come on together, you can set up custom switches. So we'll go over to the custom switch tab here, and I've now set it up so that all lights come on together. So all I've got to do is click that, and now all lights come on. And then there's other functions that you have where you can either toggle them on and off. You can have them set up as a strobe, and then you can also have them set up as momentary. So I've just kind of shown what we can do with it. So I just set up another function that those lights are now too bright, and I just want to dim them down. So just with hitting one button, I can now just dim those lights down, and they're all dim. So you can set that up where it's all your work lights, one of your work lights, however you want it really set up. You have so much customization. All you gotta do is edit them, and then you can just do any sort of customization you want. You just add actions, and then if you've got multiple power switches, you just select the power switch that you want, and then you select the switch that you're after, and then you can decide, do you want to toggle it, do you want to turn it on, turn it off, do you want it to be normal, momentary, strobe, and then that's where you can then adjust all your dimmable. So if you wanted to have multiple dimming sections, instead of having to then jump in to the light with a lot of these like switch panels and then having to manually slide this up and down, you could just set up multiple custom switches that you could have it set at full brightness, half brightness, or the most dimmable, and then all you gotta do is hit one switch and it'll go straight to that function. So it just makes it a lot easier once it's all set up, and it's super simple to set up, and then you can adjust everything that you want there. So it's a pretty nice little system, super usable, and then that's just why we're kind of pretty keen to get this Garmin system set up, especially with what you can do with a lot of these screens integrated with Victron and that. But these switch panels are just so customizable. They are a little bit more expensive than other ones, but they can do a lot more than what these other switch panels can on the market. So that's why we're so keen on them. So we'll jump into the Garmin Overlander now. So this is probably their main RV like overlanding screen that you can get. It has the inReach ability, so now if you're ever out and you've got no cell service, just use the Iridium satellites, and then you can message any contacts that you have. So that does have a subscription to it. I think the cheapest one they have is like $15 a month if you want it for that, but it just does allow you to have any messaging whenever you don't have cell service. So that is a good feature, and it's just fully inbuilt into this, so you haven't got to have a second unit. So they do have like a little inReach little handheld, but then that's an extra thing you got to carry, extra expense, where if you go for the Overland, it's already inbuilt into it. So it's just a nice little extra feature there. But we'll just start on like the home page here. This is kind of like your RV like off-roading page. So it just gives you all your off-roading sort of information. So first thing is it does have a pitch and roll sensor. So it'll tell you the angle you're at. That's a nice feature to have if you're ever setting up camp, and especially if you've got like a rooftop tent like myself, being able to see those angles and know, oh, am I going to be able to sleep well tonight or not? That's a nice little feature. It is inbuilt into the actual unit. So if once you have it set up on the actual dash and it's not going to move, you just want to hit calibrate, it'll then go to 0, and then anytime it just moves and that, it'll just adjust from there. So that's a pretty nice little feature to have inbuilt into the screen. That way you always know where you're sitting when it comes to your pitch and roll. Makes it super easy if you are trying to set up at night and you do have a rooftop tent. Just makes it super simple for that. Then you've got like any inReach messages that you got up there, any phone notifications below, so it does sync up to your phone. You just need to have the Garmin Tread app, and then you can just calibrate it and set it up with your phone, and then you can get any sort of your phone messages. Then another feature you've got is you can set the actual vehicle width. So this is a really handy thing to have, especially if you've got a caravan or a big bus or something, because what it'll do is you'll set your width, and then whenever you set maps up and then you're going down the road, it'll avoid any streets that you're too wide for. So if there's anything you're too tall for, too wide for, it won't take you down those streets. So you're never going to get caught out with going down a really narrow street and you can't fit. If you have this set up properly, then you won't have any dramas with that. You can set multiple different vehicles as well. So then that way you can always select the car you're in if you do swap these between different vehicles, and then you're never going to get caught out on any of those narrow roads. And then it does sync up for your media player as well, so you can just hit that and it'll play music, skip songs and so that's a nice little feature as well. If you did have like a Fusion sound system, Fusion, Garmin, Victron, they all kind of integrate with each other, so then you can control that all there. But if you ever wanted to control your music, same thing, once you go to your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, it'll then also be able to function and move your sound system in your vehicle as well, so that's pretty nice. He's got some more features, just showing you altitude, stuff like that, which is pretty nice to be able to know, but I don't know how many people would look at that. And then you do have a compass, so it'll tell you which way you're going with, and then whether you're headed north or south, east, whatever. That's a pretty nice handy feature to have when you're off-roading. And then you've just got, like, this is all your navigation here. So you've got HEMA maps inbuilt, and then a nice feature that I think is really good, especially if you have that Switch Pro, is these buttons here are customizable. So if you do have your maps up and then you're in the situation where you're like, oh, I want to turn my spotlights on, whatever, you can just hit it there and then that'll turn your lights on and off. So you don't have to then go back out of your maps to then be able to turn lights on. You can just function them straight from there. So I think that's a pretty nice little feature to have, and that's just fully customizable. You can have any of your switches set up. You don't have to have any switches there. All those buttons there are fully customizable, and then having those HEMA maps inbuilt just makes it really easy when you're off-roading. I think it's just, yeah, probably the best off-road navigation you can get is the Garmin Overlander, so definitely a good option there. And then you can see all your weather as well, so same thing, it syncs up to your phone, grabs the weather from there. You can see obviously the forecast, then you can see any of the conditions, so then you can zoom in, it'll tell you what's going on when it comes to raining and so on. So you can see that all from the tablet. You haven't ever got to go back to your phone. It'll give you everything there. If there's any weather alerts, it'll tell you that as well. Not so much of a big issue unless you're going up north during cyclone season here in WA. And then these are just like all your apps and that, so you can see everything you got. You got group rides, so you've got a group, you can track your routes. So then if you ever want to backtrack, you can save that into the system, and you can see the way out from the way you went in. And then it's also got other features, like you can have like a dog tracker, so you can see exactly where your dog is. And then you just got a few like different tools and that you can use. You got power switch there, and so on. And you do have internet as well, so if you set this up to the internet, you can then also search the internet. So that's one thing I've done, because we have it paired up to our Victron system here on the board, the Prospector. So I've just gone and configure it to the VRM, just to show that you can get the Victron system on the Overlander. There is a more advanced way you can do this, it just requires other components. But if you're more after just a more simpler setup, you can still see all your Victron gear via VRM. And then once you've just logged into your VRM, you can see everything that's going on with your Victron system. Unfortunately, Play Store is disabled, so you can't get the Victron Connect or the VRM app. You've got to get it all via the actual internet. But it still gives you a nice brief overview. You can see everything that's going on with the actual system there. So yeah, it's a pretty nice little handy feature. But yeah, if you are looking to go a bit more advanced, there are other ways to do it, but you just require a few different systems to make that happen. But it does give you a nice little overview there, which is nice to have. And then I just set this up as the home screen, so pretty much every time you bring into the internet, it will just come straight to the VRM there. So just makes it super simple that if you are looking to be able to see your Victron stuff via VRM, I'd definitely recommend bookmarking as the home screen, and then that way every time you open up the internet, it'll fire up your VRM. And then yeah, as we already previously discussed, you got all your power switch is integrated as well. So you got all your lights, any custom ones as well. And then you can just have that set up on the actual home screen. So you can just scroll across to it, manage all your lighting from there. And yeah, everything on their home screen is fully customizable. So it's pretty much just like a normal tablet. You can change anything you want on it and then lay it out exactly that suits you, different widgets and so on. So it's a pretty advanced, nice system. And then it's just got a little magnetic base that you use to secure it. So you can get a car mount, little like 12 volt setup. So it'll have a little cigarette socket. Then it'll also have a little windscreen mount. And then it just goes straight magnetic. So all you got to do is just pull it off like that. And then the magnetic comes off. And then you can take it with you. You can have another one of these mounts set up somewhere else. And all you got to do is just chuck it back on, put it down like that. And then you're good to go. So it makes it super simple to be able to move it wherever you want to, whether you want to have one set up in your canopy and then just switch between. So you got your Switch Pro stuff there. It's completely up to you. Yeah, so it's just a bit of an overview on just the power switch and the Overlander. So if you're interested you know, of those products, yeah, you can just get in contact with us and we can give you a bit more information if you're after that. But yeah, we are working on just making it a bit more advanced system for those Victrons. So if you've got like a caravan, for example, and you wanted to have all your switching on the one screen instead of having multiple different units, yeah, we can definitely replace the Touch 50, Touch 70 for another Garmin screen that allows those switching. But yeah, that is a bit more of a involved process to do that. It does require a few different ways of communication, a few different other components. So that one's a bit more advanced, but I definitely think that this, for most like cars and people's setups, I definitely think is what will get the job done, and I think it will give you a lot more advanced ability than what we're currently being able to offer. So yeah, we're pretty excited now to be able to offer these things. So yeah, if you're interested, get in contact with us, and yeah, we can help you out.